let's unpack this. We are diving deep into a fortune so vast, it's almost, well, unimaginable.
Right.
Yet the man who commands a massive chunk of it is almost completely invisible. So our mission today is really to analyze this unique strategy of silent power. We're dissecting the sources on Jim Walton, the least known heir to the Walmart dynasty.
Yeah, it's truly a compelling study in contrast, isn't it? You're looking at someone with an estimated net worth around $114.1 billion. This is as of September 2025. Puts him right up there among the richest globally.
Easily.
Yeah, while we track, every little move from Bezos or Musk, and we hear quite a bit about his sister Alice Walton and her art patronage.
Right, she's more visible.
Jim Walton actively avoids the spotlight. He's such an outlier in that sort of celebrity billionaire landscape.
And that invisibility, that's the core paradox we need to dig into here. How do you wield that kind of financial, effectively steering the world's largest private employer and retailer while staying almost totally silent publicly? It's just counterintuitive. We usually link extreme wealth with extreme visibility.
Well, the sources really affirm that his entire operational model, it's calculated, it's highly deliberate. It's a strategy where basically structural ownership and institutional influence are designed to speak much louder than any public statement or interview he might give.
So the structure is the statement.
Exactly. His wealth isn't really optimized for consumption, flashy things, or for fame. It is strategically optimized for continuity and crucially concentrated control across generations. He's the quiet architect.
Okay, let's look at that architecture then, because the financial structure seems to be where the real sophistication lies. And this model starts with the legacy of Sam Walton, right? Sell for less, live better. For Jim, it seems money is less about cash flow and maybe more about creating this enduring system of stability.
That's the crucial pivot, yeah. The foundation of their dynasty's control really lies in the intricate way they manage their ownership stake. The family, primarily through entities like Walton Enterprises LLC and the Walton Family Holdings Trust, they control nearly 45% of Walmart's voting power.
Wait, hang on. I want to pause on that for a second because that's a critical distinction. We can't just rush past it. They control 45% of the vote. But you said they own less than half of the total shares outstanding. How does that actually work, mechanically?
It's done through some pretty careful legal instruments, basically trusts and holding companies. So while individual family members might hold shares personally, key trusts, like the Walton Family Holdings Trust, transfer the voting rights for these massive blocks of shares. We're talking like 581 million shares in that one trust alone, irrevocably over to Walton Enterprises.
Irrevocably.
Yeah. And that mechanism, it concentrates the decision-making authority into one strategic hub. Essentially, they've engineered a situation where their influence is kind of insulated from market fluctuations and, importantly, from outside activist shareholders.
So the market can make their net worth bounce around.
Right. The numbers jump up and down.
But it can't actually shake their influence over the company's direction.
Precisely. It's a staggering level of insulation. No outside force can really threaten their fundamental control.
Okay, but stability needs more than just stock control, right? It needs resilience. And this seems to be where his role as chairman of Arvest Bank Group comes in.
Exactly right. Arvest Bank Group is their primary diversification play. It's a regional bank rooted in Arkansas, currently holding over $27 billion in assets as of mid-2025.
So Walmart gives them scale and growth.
And exposure to global retail cycles, yeah.
And Arvest provides financial ballast. How does a regional bank act as ballast for a global giant like Walmart?
Well, it provides a massive source of income that's independent of retail volatility. So think about when the retail sector faced major shocks like during the pandemic or periods of high inflation.
Yeah, big swings.
Arvest just kept providing financial services, loans, stability. Think of it like a deep, stable financial reservoir. It ensures the overall family fortune never relies solely on, the ups and downs of quarterly sales reports from the stores. It's a really essential hedge. Reinforces resilience.
Okay, so if we're summarizing this financial piece for you, the listener, Jim Walton's mindset really redefines the purpose of money itself. It's clearly not designed for fleeting prestige. You don't see him buying sports teams or space rockets.
No, you don't. And that's the central lesson here. His framework is money is for securing influence and systemic control across decades. A publicly visible purchase, a fancy car, it depreciates.
Right.
But a strategically managed block of voting shares, that endures. and it appreciates. So the famous frugality isn't just some inherited quirk from Sam. It's almost a strategic necessity. It ensures the system lasts and keeps resources focused on durable assets.
Right, that makes sense. Okay, shifting gears slightly. Let's look at his career path. Because it's surprisingly understated, considering the power he ended up with. He didn't just jump into a CEO role or something.
No.
He started in the real estate department at Walmart back in the 1970s. Why was owning the ground so important early on? What's the strategy there?
Well, it was an early lesson in building the foundation. Sam Walton always believed in owning the land under the stores, if possible.
Okay.
So by starting there, Jim learned pretty quickly that the real enduring power wasn't necessarily in managing the day-to-day store operations, but in controlling the permanent underlying assets, the things that last. So when he moved over to Walton Enterprises LLC in 1975, he basically took that lesson focus on the foundation and applied it to the family fortune itself. His career wasn't about, public execution. It was about privately managing the ownership structure.
Which leads us to that fascinating decision he made in 2016. He quietly steps down from the Walmart board. Now, to an outsider, that looks like maybe a retreat from power.
You might think that, but it seems it was the ultimate long-term strategic handoff, definitely not a retreat. By stepping down, he immediately placed his son, Stuart Walton, onto the board.
Ah, the succession plan in action.
Exactly. And Stuart now chairs the Critical Technology and E-commerce Committee. So Jim didn't just maintain family influence. He directed it squarely into the most vital future growth areas of the business. It was completely planned succession designed for generational continuity.
And when you connect that decades-old architectural work, that foundation laying, to Walmart's current market performance, the results are just explosive. We're looking at 2025 figures here, $177.4 billion in quarterly revenue.
Huge numbers.
Massive, 25% year-over-year e-commerce growth. And their advertising division is surging, 46%? Fueled by things like that $2.3 billion purchase of Vizio.
Yeah, and Jim's quiet career moves, building that structure, solidified the foundation that makes him the primary financial beneficiary of all this high-tech, high-growth evolution. He didn't need to be the visionary on stage talking about AI and drones.
He just needed to be the architect.
He just needed to be the architect who designed a foundation stable enough to support all that hyper-growth and digital transformation.
That really is the hidden lesson for us, isn't it? The person who designs the structural foundation, the contracts, the holdings, the trusts, they're often the most powerfully positioned, even if they don't get the public applause.
Precisely.
Yeah. Okay, let's transition now to his personal operational strategy, sort of the behavioral playbook. It seems defined by three things: silence, thrift, and delegation, or maybe institutionalizing power. Let's start with the silence. In an age of, relentless self-promotion, why is his total avoidance of interviews and public commentary so crucial?
Well, silence is probably his primary defense mechanism. It ensures attention stays focused solely on Walmart's performance, its brand, not on the personal behavior or politics or potential, gaffes of the controlling family.
Right. Less surface area for attack.
Exactly. He becomes sort of scandal-proof by design. He operates purely through his actions, his votes, not his words.
But doesn't that lack of public visibility create a potential vulnerability too? When issues inevitably arise, say, around labor practices or political influence, environmental stuff, doesn't silence maybe make the dynasty look disconnected or uncaring? Could that erode public trust?
That's a really important critical tension, absolutely. And while silence might protect the individual, you're right, the dynasty needs that social license to operate, which is why the second habit, thrift, becomes so vital. It acts as a powerful public alignment tool. Jim is famously modest, reportedly drives a, well-used Ford pickup following his father Sam's famous discipline.
Yeah, it's almost impossible to picture. A man worth over $114 billion driving a beat-up truck. But why does that specific detail matter so much strategically? Is it just PR?
It's more than PR, I think. It reinforces Walmart's entire cultural identity. Efficiency, affordability, thrift. It makes the family seem relatable, or at least congruent with the brand's core message of saving people money so they can live better.
Right. If he was living extravagantly.
Extravagance would invite immediate and probably justified scrutiny, especially around the company's labor practices. But this demonstrated personal restraint. It acts as a kind of buffer. He aligns his personal life with the corporate ethos.
Okay, that makes strategic sense. And finally, this idea of institutionalizing power through planned succession. We touched on the 2016 board handoff to his son, Stuart.
Yeah, and that handoff was more than just a retirement. It was the mechanism to ensure control wasn't just tied to one aging individual. The entire philosophy seems built around continuity and maybe restraint. If we look back at that structure we talked about earlier, the Walton Family Holdings Trust, transferring those 581 million shares voting rights to Walton Enterprises.
Right, concentrating the vote.
That move ensures concentrated, swift decision-making. That's a hallmark of institutionalized power. The structure itself almost dictates restraint. The less individual autonomy you show, perhaps, the more control the collective system maintains over the long haul.
Okay, let's analyze the long game here then. This entire defense-through-design structure must provide incredible protection against volatility and crises, right?
Absolutely. That structural control of nearly 45% of the vote acts as an unshakable shield. Market panic, economic downturns, they might severely dent the numerical value of the fortune on paper.
Sure, the net worth fluctuates.
But they cannot dent their strategic control over the board or, crucially, the CEO selection process. They're pretty much immune to the kind of short-term activist pressures that plague so many other big public companies.
And the financial ballast of Arvest Bank plays a critical role here, too, ensuring stability during those crises.
It's the backup generator, basically. During moments of extreme retail stress, like, remember the early pandemic supply chain chaos?
Oh, yeah.
Arvest ensured a robust, non-retail revenue stream stayed accessible. That guaranteed liquidity and financial options for the family, allowing them to remain defensive, strategic, rather than purely reactive.
Okay, and here's where the long-term public strategy seems to come in. Philanthropy as a kind of strategic shield. The Walton Family Foundation distributed, $548.8 million in grants in 2024, focused on education and the environment.
Yeah, and this looks like sophisticated, methodical philanthropy. It's not just giving away money. It seems geared towards securing that social license to operate we talked about. By investing heavily and consistently in critical areas like education and conservation, they cultivate political and social legitimacy.
Legitimacy through good works.
This large, consistent investment provides a really vital buffer against external criticism. It helps ensure that the dynasty is viewed, at least in part, as a contributor to the public good. And that's essential for dynastic resilience in the modern age.
And maybe the ultimate long-game maneuver came just recently, in 2025. The move to expand the circle of control from just a few heirs to, I think, 11 voting members of the dynasty. That's something, a massive structural decision.
It really is. It looks like the definitive step towards making the dynasty sort of failure-proof, or at least less dependent on any single individual. They're deliberately dispersing authority across a wider group of vetted family members.
Spreading the responsibility.
And the power. Authority is no longer reliant on the genius, or maybe just the longevity of a single patriarch. It becomes a self-sustaining system. Jim's ultimate influence might lie in ensuring that the foundation he spent decades building is sturdy enough to perpetuate itself for generations to come, regardless of who technically holds the title of richest.
So when we look at Walmart's current massive footprint today,
Yeah.
Every shopping trip people make, every Walmart Plus subscription, every single ad served on a Vizio TV they now own, it's all just a quiet, ongoing reinforcement of the structural power Jim Walton designed. Mostly behind the scenes. His influence whispers, it never, ever shouts.
That's the entire model distilled right there.
Right.
Frame money as strategic ownership, choose building the foundation architecture over seeking public applause, and then institutionalize that control through silence, thrift, and system-driven succession.
It brings us right back to that core insight for you, the informed listener. Success isn't always about visibility. In fact, for a fortune of this sheer scale, visibility often becomes a liability.
It certainly can.
True leadership, as Jim Walton seems to demonstrate, might be about creating a durable, silent system where the right strategic choices can just endure for generations.
So since Jim Walton's entire operational strategy is built on maximizing that quiet structural influence and minimizing personal noise, the final thought for you to maybe explore is this. If you were building a legacy today in this world of constant attention, 247 news cycles, would you prioritize the visibility that comes with the spotlight?
Or the durability that comes from silence and foundational control?
Yeah. What actually proves to be the most powerful choice in such a noisy world?